This week on Edmunds Live, I'm joined by Mike McGrath, Scott Oldham, Ed Helwig, and our industry analyst, Jessica Caldwell. And this week we got our first drive of the Toyota Corolla and the Mazda 3. One is perennially a bestseller and one is perennially one of the best compact cars, period. So Mike, you drove, let's start with the Corolla. You drove it?
Great.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, the 2014 Corolla comes with the same engine it had last time, but the big news this time, and this is big news for a segment that doesn't like change, it's now got a CVT, which ups the fuel economy to something like 42 miles per gallon. Highway. And unlike some of those earlier CVTs by Nissan especially, it doesn't drone under full throttle. It's got these fake shift points that would fool most people into thinking it's a normal transmission.
You guys do know that no one that's ever driven a Corolla has ever gone to full throttle ever in their entire...
Not once.
Yes,
and
hence it's not
they'll
really
never
big.
know it's a CVT.
Not once.
Yeah.
Does it deliver the mileage?
In our testing, we averaged just over 30 miles per gallon, and that's with terrible west side traffic. And on our 116-mile evaluation loop, we got something like 35 miles per gallon. And that's a mix of Mulholland Highway, PCH, and quite a bit of highways and a pretty steep grade. So we've no doubt that really on a flat road going 65 mile an hour speed limit, you'll get that number.
And importantly, unlike the last one was not a very good car. This one is better to drive. The interior, in terms of quality, is a lot better. In terms of design, it is a little more interesting. I don't think it's
But if you're even
though.
remotely interested in interesting, you go for the Mazda 3.
Because we did really like that car. I think it's just as significant as the original one was when it came out, but talk about Mazda and does it really matter?
Well,
do they have a hope?
Mazda is kind of like diesels and wagons. Journalists seems to like it. No one else really seems to care. The sales are okay, but it really has never caught on. The cars always get good positive reviews, but incentives are always high. They take a long time to sell. And it's just never reached that critical mass of, other brands that are smaller like Subaru. Their sales are still small, but they're growing. It just seems to kind of falter along.
Maybe this new generation of Mazdas, though, can finally buck that trend. They seem to have several segments covered all at the same time, which I'm not quite sure I could say about Mazda in the past.
What Japanese brands need. They need a good compact car, they need a good mid-sized sedan, and they need a good small crossover.
Exactly.
If you have all three, you'll be successful
they have
as a
them
Japanese
all
brand.
right at the exact same moment, and hopefully they got the marketing dollars to kind of get the word out about all three, and maybe they can finally get some traction. It'd be nice.
Staying with Toyota, but in sort of a different, slightly darker arena. A jury cleared Toyota of responsibility in a so-called bellwether case for unintended acceleration. Now, we're not legal experts. We're not going to go into that, nor are we going to drudge up all the tests we did about unintended acceleration a couple of years ago. But I think we could probably talk to the effect that cases like this might have on Toyota sales. Have people really cooled on Toyota at all because of the safety issues? Do they still think Toyotas are safe?
I mean, I think most people do. I mean, you look at where their sales had faltered and their loyalty faltered, and it was the month after the unintended acceleration news. So we're looking at February 2010 and during the tsunami. Other than that, I mean, their sales have been, fairly strong. I mean, they peaked at kind of a weird time. They peaked in 2008 when gas prices were high, and also in 2009 when, the domestic companies are going through their turmoil. So of course, their market share is high. Have they got back to that level? They haven't yet, but it's still relatively high. August sales, they had the highest market share they'd seen since the end of 2010. So I think that, they're pumping out new product and having some success with it.
Let's go to our lightning round. Mike, let's say you have $75,000 to spend. Would you buy a new Cadillac ELR, or would you buy both a Chevy Volt and a Cadillac ATS with the same amount of money?
I would buy 2 Volts and have one of them tow the other one around. The pricing seems crazy for the Cadillac Volt, but what they have to remember is the Volt sales have been pretty low and relatively disappointing. There's no way with Cadillac's increased price and limited dealer network they were going to do anything but poor sales. So jack the price way up, make the interior really cool. That way when you only sell 400 a month, you have a reason for it.
Now, similar topic here. Jessica, how long will it be before GM drops the price on the ELR?
It's a plug-in hybrid, right? Everyone that has a plug-in hybrid drops the price. Even Ford that said, we're not going to drop the price. What do they do on the Focus? They drop the price. I would imagine that it would be relatively soon. I mean, they're probably going to launch with a pretty hot smoke and lease deal. And maybe their strategy is, we have a really expensive ELR, but hey, look at this Volt. This is $299 a month on a lease payment. Why don't you switch to that instead? I mean, maybe, you know, and they work the volume angle, but at that price, you know, like Mike had said, it just seems a little far-fetched.
Ed, BMW announced that its own plug-in hybrid, the i3 range extender, will cost $46,000. Now, does that price make more sense?
I think that makes pretty good sense. I mean, it's from a financial standpoint, you're going to recoup your money, of course not. But if you look at other cars in that segment, you know, the Volt and the Leaf, and a lot of those cars are $35,000, $40,000. So BMW has the brand that a lot of people would like to get in on, and an electric car, that's a BMW. There's a lot of people who would buy it just for that. And
now, moving entirely away from plug-in hybrids, Scott, our Buick Grand National is for sale.
Gonna miss it.
What's your favorite memory of it?
That's a toughie. I've had some good times in that car over the last year, but I think it was on the Hot Rod Power Tour. We were somewhere in Arkansas, and we were sort of in traffic with a whole bunch of other cool cars, and we pulled up in front of a crowded Sonic, packed with thousands of people from whatever town we were in, kind of watching the cars go by. And I did an epic Smokey Burnout in front of this Sonic. Crowd went wild. It was a great moment.
Grand National is the car that gave me a mullet. Now let's go on to our social media minute. Let's bring in Claire on Skype.
Hey guys, so this week I have a great question that came in on Facebook in regards to the post we did about selling the Buick Grand National. Philip Wager asked, what's next? Ferrari? Japanese import from the 70s/80s? How about a Diablo, built after the VW takeover of the company? Get something ridiculous.
We've been playing with some different ideas. I'd like to do an F-355. Defender, Land Rover Defenders come up again, but I think we're going to go with a used AMG car. We haven't done a Mercedes yet, and we haven't done an AMG, so maybe a CL65 or maybe an E55 wagon, something like that.
Way cool.
James and I are rooting for that twin-turbo V12.
Claire, what else?
22 Fates asks, what are you more excited for, the upcoming VW GTI or the Subaru WRX?
I drove that GTI just a bit ago, and like our long-termer, my biggest complaint, it's a great car. My biggest complaint is that you can't turn stability control off. The new Golf R, however, when that one comes out, have fully disableable stability control and be the one you really want for having fun.
So not the WRX.
Not the WRX.
Scott.
I'm going to go with the Subaru just to be contrarian.
Excellent. Ed.
like Mike, I've driven the GT, or I've driven the GTD, the diesel version, but same setup. But I think it's just sort of more of the same. I mean, if you've driven it before and you liked it before, it's very much, you know, the same feel, same look, everything. So I think I'd be more excited to see what Subaru does with the Impreza.
Jessica, as an avid hot hatch enthusiast, what do you think?
I mean, it was the traction control. I mean, that was a big issue for me too. Turn it off, turn it on. I don't know what's going to happen. Seriously though, I think I'm more excited for the WRX just because, you know, I like a boxer engine and whatnot. Why not?
That's all I've got for this week, but we're always looking for new questions to feature on the show. So make sure you like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks.
Well, that's all we got for this week, so see you next week at Edmunds Live. Thanks, guys.